On the end, down here.
I'd like to call the order of the Education Committee of the whole meeting of the Board of Directors of the School District for the City of Allentown for today, September 8th, 2022. Prior to tonight's meeting, an executive session was held to discuss confidential and legal matters. The board welcomes and invites public comments. You may address the board on agenda items and or non-agenda items. The first opportunity for comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited to agenda items only. If you choose to address the board, please fill out the comment card and hand it to Harry Aristikazian. Comment cards are located on the podium near the door. So they're by the exit sign, the little black basket next to that. Once recognized, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and kindly limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Dr. Stamper, do you have any comments at this time?
Madam Chairwoman, I do not. Thank you.
Quite welcome. At this time, we're only taking public comments on agenda items. Do we have any?
We have no comments on the Education Committee.
No comment cards? Hearing and seeing none, I'm gonna go to first agenda item for tonight's education. Okay. And I would ask that Ms. Tiffany Pollett come to the podium, please.
Good evening. I would like to request the board's approval for a revision to the memorandum of understanding between Valley Health Partners and the Allentown School District to provide mobile dental van services at no cost to the district. So this MOU was updated to allow Valley Health Partners to provide services at Hayes and Sheridan if the dental van is unavailable. Do you have any questions?
May I have a motion? To have the mobile dental van services move to our regular board meeting of September 22nd, 2022. I heard there was a motion made by Mrs. Brown and second by Mr. Thiel. Is there any discussion on this?
I just want to say, I think this is a great addition to what they provide because dental health is actually significant to whole health for our students. So thank you for including it.
I agree. Thank you, Mrs. Wilt. Is there any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposing? Hearing and seeing none, this moves forward to our next regular board meeting of September 22nd, 2022. At this time, I'm going to ask that Dr. Kurt Birkbaum come to the podium to discuss or to present student information systems evaluation.
Thank you very much. I'd like to request the board's approval for maintaining the Sapphire K-12 suite as the Allentown School District Student Information System. I have a presentation in reference to the evaluation, which was conducted by our third-party member, which was Chester County Intermediate Unit. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The evaluation was initiated by the central administration previous to our existing central administration. They asked us to evaluate it on feasibility and operationability. That was conducted by the Chester County Intermediate Unit. They wanted to see how well our existing student information system worked, which is Sapphire K-12, and they wanted it all to be also to be evaluated against other SISs, and those 3 SISs that were used in comparison were Infinite Campus, Power School, and Skyward. They were selected because they have the highest representation in Pennsylvania for utilization. So those are actually the top 4 systems in the state of Pennsylvania that are actually used. Next slide, please. This evaluation directly ties in with Dr. Stanford's blueprint for success, basically focusing on our ability to organizationally meet the needs of our constituency, as well as being effective, efficient, and transparent, and to meet those accountability needs that are at the state and at the local level, and the federal level also, please. Next slide, please. This is actually the timeline when it started. The initial ask was instigated in June of 2021. The timeline was a year because the board only gave us 2 years of an extension with Sapphire. To actually transfer from one student information system to another takes at least a year, if not 2 or longer, to actually transfer over. So Chester County Intermediate Unit was very, very aggressive and professional in their execution of this evaluation. Next slide, please. As I said, Chester County was the partner. We attempted to try to find multiple partners, but were unable to, because they did this type of evaluation of assist did not previously exist or had not been executed. We also wanted to see how well the SIS worked for us, meeting our fiscal and strategic needs, but also to see if an alternative was more fiscally appropriate and strategically appropriate. Next slide, please. This is actually all the items that they use to evaluate the system. We involved all stakeholders. There were parents involved, there were students involved, there were teachers involved, there were clerical involved, there was administrative involved. We wanted to make sure that we got a broad scape or a broad understanding of the utilization. Not only did they review the products of K-12 Sapphire, but they also reviewed the compatibility with Infinite Campus, Power School, and Skyward, so we could compare apples to apples. Next slide, please. This actually illustrates that comparison. Where you see a check, that means all the systems have the component that's to the left. When you see a moniker or the notation third party, that means that that system does not have that component part, and we would have to get a third-party provider to support us in that area. Next slide, please. I think it's the second half of the sheet. Yep, goes the explanation, the asterisks underneath. Next slide, please. This is basically the implementation cost for us to maintain our present SIS and then to transfer to those specific 3 other SISs. Now you'll notice on the top line, there is no one-time fee because Sapphire K-12 already exists with us. You will notice some other notations. If you look at Skyward, there are, and I have to make sure I have call out the right number. The print is so small. I'm just going to step up. I'm sorry. behind Skyward is a 2. The 2 is there because that does not, that cost in that column does not articulate what it will cost to bring the third-party people in to get the functioning level up. So there's additional cost in the Skyward last column if we're going to meet the same capabilities as Sapphire. Also, if you go all the way to the top, fourth column over, Power School has a small 1 behind it. And that 1 articulates the base Power School option functionality is below the functionality of Sapphire at present. So it does have additional items, but those would be upgrades. And I want to stop for questions.
So a little bit confused, maybe help me here. So when you mentioned that, sorry, when you mentioned that Power School in this configuration here regarding the cost, the price of this does not include everything with this footnote. In the previous slide, it said it contained everything. You're saying if in terms of its capabilities, but not in terms of its package. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and maybe you're going to address this later on, and I apologize. At what point are we going to be able to see apples to apples and further evaluation?
The Jefferson County Intermediate compared, they weren't given those numbers for the additional tax line. If you want me to go back to them,
I'm just,
Please go to your mic because you can't hear you on it. Thank you.
yeah, I was just curious because it's hard to understand the apples to apples. That's why I'm a little bit confused.
okay. I will get back to Chester County Intermediate Unit, but it would be a higher cost. You want to know exactly what that number is for the higher cost to meet the same capability.
Well, I certainly want to hear what the recommendation is and the outcome of the evaluation. I'm not suggesting that we turn it upside down. I just wanted to clarify, and I was a little bit confused in
Not a problem.
those 2 slides. Thank you.
But we just went with basics because the basic was even higher than what exists now. And I can get you that number probably. Okay, I don't anticipate it as being a problem. We do have Ms. Stacy McGrary and Mr. Brian Rozicki, who were the leads for the Chester County Intermediate, and they're on this call also.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarity purposes, this is a discussion item. So this is not something that we have to actually, it's not an action item. So we
not.
have time. So
Right.
it would be nice for us to be able to, and I received that. You did say they didn't give that to you, but if we could be able to compare apples to apples and be able to have all those stones flipped, that would be good.
Okay, you will
Thank
have
you.
that.
I appreciate you. Thank
Not a
you.
problem.
Donovan, that was Mr. Palmer's bell.
Mr. Palmer?
So for some of these, you mentioned Skyward, there was a third party. Is it the same third party for every one of these that needs one?
Not necessarily so. What that's articulating is we haven't, Skyward doesn't have a special education model, which is under Sapphire Student Services. So we would have to get an IEP writer. So that might come from somebody else. Am I making sense?
Yeah, so
So
The-
another component might come from another service provider.
then my question would be kind of the pricing of them. Could that then change for the Skyward as well?
Oh, yes, it's gonna go up because of that third party provider. Now,
Could we get the same thing that Mr. Field was asking for that?
the issue is they went to evaluate systems. That third party provider is like, it's an additional charge. But that's like another evaluation for who would be the third party provider providing each of those. Is that, am I explaining that well enough?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So there's no way then to kind of have like.
I can go back to them and see, but that was not part of their initial
Right,
evaluation contract. They were looking at third party providers. This just thinks we would need that.
No, I understand. So they never actually factored that in. And
No, sir.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
That's why they gave the base numbers, because those are the concrete numbers we have. To project out would be difficult.
And Dr. Burbine, is it safe to say that we're doing a lot more with Skyward now than what we were doing before?
We're doing a lot more with Sapphire.
With Sapphire, yeah, with Sapphire now than we were before.
Our utilization, there are actually, I think, like 20 components. We're initiating communication last year. We're using online registration, which is going to be integral to our centralized registration. We have a number of component parts that we're more effectively using. The report writer allows us to customize
Right.
so we can get the things we need.
And those items with the footnotes is just letting us know that there's additional items that are available.
Okay, we got a base cost,
I got it.
so there's going to be more. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
clarifying this.
Dr. B, can I ask you to stay there? Because
I'm sorry.
the reason why I'm telling you this is because the line, it drove me into yours a little bit more too as well.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Because I was lost most of the time, some of the time, and I don't like being lost.
I apologize,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Harris. I'm always moving around.
I know, you're animated, and that's okay, but for the people who are on Zoom, thank you.
Next slide. This slide is to articulate the benefits of maintaining the present SIS. At present, my department has articulated over 100 data quality checks. These go out automated to the people they need to. So do we have the right address? Is the student enrolled in multiple schools? So these data quality checks allow us to keep ahead of data errors. And those data errors actually feed into the second one. They would cause a fiscal, if we had an increase in errors, we would have a fiscal impact to our October 1, our 12/1, and our SARS. Now, I know Ms. Phoebe is going to ask me, what does that mean? October 1 is like where we get the numbers to the government to say, this is how many kids we have. These are our kids. They're part of our LEA, our local educational agency. That's what gets us funding. It's associated with each one of those children. The 12/1 is actually a subset of that, and it talks specifically for special education students. Okay, and the SARS deals with our nursing suite and the nursing section. Okay, these are all entities that allow us to articulate to the state the students and the kids we're serving, and we get those funds back. Additionally, this system allows us to address many, many other aspects. Our PVAS, which is directly related to teacher evaluation, our PASA, which is testing for students who don't take the PSSA. It's our PSSA testing, our Keystone testing. The other thing that this platform does, it allows us to more effectively meet our civil rights data collection. And civil rights data collection has to deal with the equity that we exhibit, and it's done on a 2-year basis. Now, because we missed a collection during COVID, we're actually going to be doing it 3 years in a row. We did it last year, we're going to do it this year, and we're going to do it next year. So these are very integral because we already have component parts within Sapphire that assist us at delivering these in a timely fashion because they are state federally mandated. Next slide, please. More additional benefits. I do want to call out the second one here, and it goes back to those data quality checks that the department has developed. I have to give big kudos to our PIMS coordinator, Mr. Rustin Kreider. He's developed most of these reports, which allow us to submit not just students at particular times, but throughout the year, so we can check for those errors. On the initial quality data checks, we started out at over 260 errors. At our lowest point back on May 18th, we got down to 10 errors, 10 error reports for the entire district of 16,782 students at that time, which I think is phenomenal. Also, Ms. Kano, no, it was Mr. Thiel said about utilizing the system. Right now, there's 17 component parts in Sapphire, and we're using 14 of them fully, 4 of them partially, and 2 are not being utilized at all because the district has made decisions to go in other ways. Next slide, please. This product also helps us to address some concerns that happened in the curriculum audit back in 2018. Ongoing consistent evaluation of district programs and procedures because of those ongoing data quality checks that we have started and we are continuing and we are increasing. Next slide, please. It also allows our CSI schools, ATSI schools, and TSI schools to have more data when they're developing their comprehensive plans that are required by the state. Next slide, please. The basic recommendation is to maintain the present system. Okay, but there are some caveats with that. The Chester County IU said it's good, but you need to do some things better. And some of those things better that we need to standardize policies and procedures. Okay, so everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And we also need to have better professional development because in those focus groups and in those questionnaires, those are the things that came out. They came out from clerical, they came out from administrative, they came out at all the levels. So we already understand it. If we go to the next slide, it talks about our next steps. Okay, so if we maintain the system and retain it, specifically with the professional development, we have to approach it 2-tier. One is we have to get Sapphire to assist us in a cyclical, ongoing professional development. So we might have it in October, November, February, June. But it would have to go through a cycle of trainings because we have turnover. So that new person would have to get that training more quickly, more effectively. The other tier of that, until we can instigate that cyclical training, I've initiated a Google Drive for clerical, a Google Drive for counseling, and a Google Drive for administrative. I've executed 2 administrative trainings on communication manager. Okay, I have 2 more coming up on utilizing attendance reports for administrators to help them with attendance, with making sure that they know what needs to be done and who they need to get to do it. We also are looking at another training in reference to disciplinary events that have multiple students. Going to be running these twice in 2-week cycles until we get that standardized. The other, I think really most important is to digitize and standardize all our existing protocols. If we can do that, then we put them in a place. So Ms. Johnson is a new secretary, Senate Secretary at Hayes. She can click on a button because she doesn't know what to do. Click on that button electronically. It takes her exactly to that page with the step-by-step instructions. I mean, we'll still do the service providing because basically that's what accountability is. We're servicing the kids, the students, the parents, and our staff. So the recommendation is to retain the SIS at this point, and I greatly appreciate your time and your attention. And I will try to find out those numbers and articulate them to you as soon as I can. Questions, please?
Yes, okay, so the last 3 slides gives a lot of information. So,
You want us to go back?
no. 'Cause no. So what are we doing to to standardize everything, because that's your point, to standardize and give us a standard curriculum for every single school.
So what my plan
Mhm.
is to find an outside service provider that can digitize and standardize, because I only have 4 people in my department. And we're triaging issues right now. That it's in its infancy stage.
Okay.
So if we can find somebody to standardize it, all those forms that we already have, then to put it in a platform, and we can house that platform on the ASD website in the intranet, which is the staff section.
Okay.
Is that a good enough explanation?
It's
You want me
really
to
good.
elaborate?
Yeah, it is. Have we found a third party, or are we starting to?
Oh,
look?
yeah, I started looking. I just have to figure out where the money's gonna come from.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, y'all heard that. We gotta figure out where the money's coming from, because we definitely need it. Finally, because we had that in 2018, we saw how bad our curriculum was, because we had none. So. Y'all.
No, and I
find the money.
wasn't doing it to say that is the only thing impeding. It's finding that person who can execute it in a timely fashion in the way we need it executed. I
Okay,
think that's what's the most important.
well, we heard you. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Thank you again for your time.
And then
Thank you.
Dr. Furlong. This is a discussion item, so we're gonna move on. At this time, I would ask that Ms. Lisa Greiter come forward and talk about the LAF split, including that item.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'd like to request the board's approval to renew the purchase of Lost Links licenses for progress monitoring of our English learners at the following schools: Hayes Central, Dodd, Jackson, Jefferson, Lehigh Parkway, Moser, Muhlenberg, Ramos, Ritter, Roosevelt, Sheridan, and Union Terrace Elementary Schools at a projected cost of $26,627.85. Lost Links is already being used at our secondary schools as well as Washington Elementary School. Lost Links is an online assessment designed to progress monitor the English language acquisition of our English learner students in ASD. It supports the strategics framework by honoring each student's unique qualities and promoting cultural responsiveness. Lost Links has built-in and ongoing training for our teachers and staff to administer the assessment to students and to learn how to analyze and interpret the assessment results. This purchase will ensure that ELs have access to quality assessments that measure their linguistic complexity, and Lost Links addresses findings in the ASD curriculum audit concerning the improvement of assessment and accountability of our English learner students. Do you have questions?
Seeing none, may I have a motion to move this Lost Links
I make the motion.
to the regular board meeting on Thursday,
Second.
September 22nd. It's been moved by Mrs. Harris and second by Mrs. Brown.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposes?
Thank you.
At this time, I'll ask that Dr. Michael Ross come forward. And also, an action item with the approval of memorandum of understanding. Okay, and we'll use it in the right way.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Conover. This evening, we request the board's approval of 3 memorandums of understanding between the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley, Communities and Schools of Eastern Pennsylvania, and the Allentown School District to continue operation of a community school model at Trexler and Harrison Morton, as well as added supports at South Mountain. The MOU is pending acceptable review by the district solicitor, and the cost of the proposal is $310,000. For the past year, the United Way and Communities and Schools has provided an activities director that was assigned to South Mountain Middle School, and then a community director and an activities director that was assigned to both Trexler and to Harrison Morton. The exercising of those services through the United Way and through communities and schools helped us to provide an equitable experience, as we already have a communities and schools model run through the United Way with its partnership with St. Luke's at Robb Middle School. So this continues that level of service that we entered into with United Way and communities and schools last year.
Thank you. I have a motion to move. Yeah,
So moved.
can I have a motion to move the approval of memorandum of understanding between United Way and ASD for our September 22nd, 2022 regular board meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Wills, second by Mrs. Ortiz. Is there any discussion of this?
My concern is that, why do we need a third party? Why can't we get our own grant money and do it ourselves?
So that's a great question, Ms. Harris. So the model in terms of community schools has been one that has been put forth by the United Way. So we actually follow that United Way model of the community school services within our school context. In terms of the partnership with the actual services, communities and schools is the organization that provides it, trains the individuals and provides us with those employees. So they're not our employees, they're actually community and schools employees, which does provide a benefit to us in terms of not needing to provide benefits and so forth to those particular individuals. So the model is run through the United Way, and that then we partner with the communities and schools to offer those level of services.
United Way is quite a bit of money for Allentown, but they spread it around to Badlands. Same thing with community and schools. They get a lot of money for us. They get spread around everywhere else, and it should be concentrated on us. That's why I'm having a problem with it. I'm having a serious problem. I don't know if I would talk to United Way or in community and schools, but it used to be, we had the money coming to us, and it came directly to us. Not directly to us, but from those entities. Right now, those entities are getting a lot of money, millions of dollars. And we're getting a fraction of what we deserve. And I'm sick of it. So that would be something we want to, because I know our research still, and it hasn't changed. Easton and Bethlehem are getting our money.
In the case of this particular agreement, there is, so although the United Way is part of the agreement, the funds are going directly to communities and schools that go directly to support those staff members. So if you're familiar sometimes with previous United Way agreements and so forth, there's been a match on behalf of the district. There is no match in this case, especially since we are actually funding these services and purchasing these services. One of the things to address that question that you asked that we are undertaking is Ms. Ramos and myself have been working with Mr. Aristakazian to review all of our grant funding sources. Where are all of our dollars coming from? Where are they being funneled into? How are they then being allocated outward in terms of the services that we're providing? And Ms. Ramos and I have been in numerous conversations with the United Way, along with Dr. Stanford, to try and wrap our arms around that question that you're asking, so that I'm going to play the new card for a while. I can understand how our partnership with the United Way and with communities and schools and with other organizations are being used to leverage benefits for our students.
It's true. I'm not telling you a lot. It's awful. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people getting what they need off the back of our children and not giving it back to them. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other discussions to be had? Palmer?
When you originally started, you said it was for 310,000. Mine says 320.
Yes, that was a change. I actually was able to get so there was an updated agreement and MOU. So it's now 310,000 and not the original 320 that was in one of the earlier draft memos that went out. My apologies for that, Mr. Palmer.
Okay. And I just from the I just want to make sure I'm understanding. United Way is a community in schools is a branch of the United Way.
So my understanding, no, that the United Way operates the model for what a community school looks like, right? So they're the ones that create that structure for it. Communities in Schools of Eastern Pennsylvania is a separate entity from the United Way.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page here then, because I can't agree with the entire thing. Just because kind of echoing what my fellow director, Ms. Harris, was saying, there is money being made off the backs of our students, and it's not going back to our students, as well as some students and some individuals with different programs don't get benefits from some of these programs. And I know that you are doing your research, but I can't see if we're throwing more money into it without finishing our research for why these things are happening. I can't see about throwing more money into it without having answers to why these things are happening. So thank you.
Before I go to Ms. Harris, I'm gonna go back to what. So I want to ask the question, then I'm gonna go to you if that's okay. So with this, with the way things are set up, we have how many people that we're sending into our schools? Was it 3?
So so this is actually a continuation of services, right? So we wanted to try to continue services that were happening last year into this year. So in this current proposal, it is for an activities coordinator that would be positioned at South Mountain Middle School. And then it is for a services director, community services director, and an activities director at each school at Harrison Morton and at Trexler.
Okay.
So 5 total individuals.
So the reason why I asked that question is because I wanted to be clear, because this is our public committee of the whole meeting. This is where there was no discussion about education before today, right?
Mhm.
So what's happening is this is an item that's being put before the board to discuss, right? Because we don't want to not have the services that
Absolutely.
we have. And I heard a lot. You know, this is not my first year here. I know we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. But if we can't do anything better than what we are doing now, even though I must put a pin in it, we're doing better. Okay. I don't think that we should stop the bus.
Mhm.
And not go, you know, we can continue to have the district, work on, but we do have persons in our buildings that are actually on the ground doing the work. So with that comment, I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna piggyback off what Mr. Palmer said. We need more data collection. That's been my problem because they're getting the money. But we don't get the results. You know, I go to the graduations and that's cool and everything, but I need to know what's happening in between that time. So this is middle school. So I need a complete, I think all of us need a complete report of what they did last year. You know, what have they done in the last 5 years? I'm gonna give you COVID. But, you know, I want to know what they've done with that money.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that if in the agreement, there is specific goals that have been laid out and
Okay.
measures that are to be tracked. And again, with myself moving into this position, we're going to be able to work with the team to be able to get that data and to be able to turn that back, to report back out on the progress and to measure the effectiveness of those programs.
So if they don't meet the benchmarks, then what happens? Then what can we do?
Then if you do not meet the benchmark, you have to understand why the benchmark was not met. Was it a case of that the interventions or the things that were done were not the things that were needed to actually meet the needs that were being demonstrated? Were there some sort of mitigating factors that happened, that occurred, that stopped or did not get the programs to get to the level that they needed to be delivered? So there's a multitude of questions that have to be asked as part of that process, as part of an evaluation.
It's fine to be asked, but once, if they're not met and it's, the failure is theirs, can we get, is it the contract terminated? Do we find someone else?
That's when you, in terms of any program, right? Whenever you do a program or put a program out there,
Mhm.
you want to be looking at and asking, is this program effective and is it getting us the returns that we want? And that's part of the process that we're trying to establish and kind of solidify even more as a team as we move forward. So that when it comes time to do a contract renewal, or it comes time to say, ask that question, do we want to continue these services? We actually have the answers to those very questions that you are asking in terms of before we make a decision or a recommendation to move something forward.
So I asked that, and with any of the outside, especially community schools and everything else, CSI and everything else, have that fail-safe put in there. It's caveat, if you fail and the failure is yours, we move on. Thanks.
Is there any other discussion to be had?
Yes, so I just want to say, I have worked with several of our community and schools workers within our middle school, within this past school year. I have met some amazing people and they are doing amazing work with our students. Majority of them, we worked on crisis situations. So I understand that we do have some issues within United Way Community and Schools, as you both just stated. I would like to see whatever can be resolved, because a lot of these workers are from our community.
Yes.
They have attended our schools and they're giving back by being in the school with great relationships with our students, and they are impacting their lives greatly. So it's really important because they can relate to our students, and I don't want to see that go. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't want to see it go either. However, I think we should hold the administration part of it. Because it's not the workers, I do know, they are working in our school district. The administration is the problem. And that's what I really need to say. That part of it, the people who make the decisions, that's where the problem lies.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other conversation? Thank you very much.
Yep.
All in favor, let it
is
be known by
this
saying aye.
One more, this is just 1 year, right?
Wait, you still,
I'm sorry.
okay.
This is just 1 year, right?
That is correct.
Just making sure.
You finished up, Mr. Palmer? Okay, thank you. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, this moves forward to our next regular board meeting, and thank you all for your comment. At this time, I'm going to ask if there's any comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Yes, Elizabeth Martinez.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Elizabeth Martinez. I live at 2119 West Gordon Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania, 18104. Before I begin, I would like to extend my condolences to the family of Angela, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Hvac, the Husky Nation, and ASD family. I come before you today as a former student and graduate of William Allen High School, as a parent of two sons who graduated from William Allen, as an outreach counselor who worked with students from ASD after school at the Alliance Hall through the YMCA in the city of Allentown, as well as a former board director for ASD. I am here this evening to address the unfortunate event that took place at the assembly at William Allen High School. The audacity one must have to address the principal with such disrespect is appalling to me. She is the authority of the school and she wants to enforce the rules, and was faced with outbursts calling her out of her name, booing her, and throwing items at her. You got off easy. The students got off easy because, to my knowledge, no one has been disciplined for this. To make matters worse, to sign a petition to have her removed. Would this have been done if it was a male principal? No, because I've been through through our ASD school system. This would have never happened if it was a man, because they were harder. So everyone is real quick to have, everyone is so quick to react without facts. And are you signing the petition because you find this behavior acceptable? Shame on all of you. There are rules and regulations, period. And you don't like it, you should leave. There's, excuse me, and you only have, if you don't like it, you should leave. And your only option should be to get your GED on your own. Make room for the kids who want to learn and deserve to be here. So Principal Clark, continue to do what you're doing. Congratulations on being part of the ASD family. I applaud you for taking a stance against the disrespect. For those who know the history, William Allen High School is a great school, and I trust that you will work hard on getting us back to that. This was never tolerated before and should not be now. There must be a no tolerance mentality to this nonsense. Accountability is a must. Accountability on behalf of the parents and students. It's time to stop making excuses for bad behavior. To everyone who became brave on Facebook and were verbally abusive, I ask for the adults to show your strength in the classroom and in a board meeting. How many of you attended the meeting of the principals' nights to meet the principal nights? Where are you for outside activities, community days, etc.? Show your strength by volunteering, showing up to parent-teacher conferences, open houses, and sports games. Be present. Students excel in the classroom and make a difference in this lifetime. This community needs to do better. Parents should never call and leave obscene messages to principals, and students should never think to do the same. There is something terribly wrong here. Please remember, you are not owed anything more than an education. So if you are not here to be educated, leave. To the administration and faculty, thank you for not giving up. You are needed and valued. And to our board of directors, continue to work hard together with clear vision and purpose. I thank you for your efforts. And for all that I have said and shared this evening, sorry, but I'm not sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Martinez. Is there any other? No other comments? Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Are there any grass catches? I want to make a comment if I may. Hello? I just want to say, this is the first meeting that we had since school is open, right? Public. And, you know, they say if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Well, I have something good to say, so I'm going to say something. I want to commend the staff and the students, administrators, board members, all of us, for the experience that many of the students have actually expressed to me, or if not to me, through my children. I know I said before the opening of school that I was looking forward to a wonderful school year, but I just want folks to, I just want to remind you that there are going to be naysayers. And I'll talk about my son. I never talk about my kids. But my son, he's the last one. So I don't know if you guys have, the last one is usually the hardest one, right? When my son came home and said, Mom, this is going to be an awesome year for me. And I watched him, you know, get up and want to come to school. That made me, that reminds me of why I'm here. So, and I've heard comments, Dr. Stanford, I don't want to step on your toes with making a comment about what's going on over at Allen, but I'm passionate about this and about our kids. And I want to say that, even though there was a false start or not so good situation over there, I think the kids are getting it too. You know, so I don't want to beat up on them. The behavior is not acceptable, but listen, everybody needs an out or path. So I'm looking forward to us to continue. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm not saying it just to be saying it. Allentown is going to be a model school district. What goes in our kids is what comes out. So if we continue to be positive and stay focused and advocate for the things that they need and show up, we will begin to see the results, just like I'm beginning to see the results with that little one in my house. So I just wanted to say that, tonight, don't give up on our kids. I don't want them to go. I don't want them to leave. I don't want to send that message. I want them to think about what happened, pull themselves up and come on back, because you know what? We're still here, and so is Mrs. Clark. And that's all I have to say.
May I say something with that?
Sure.
Okay. I want to address what happened with Mrs. Clark. Mrs. Clark went into a system and went into a high school not being prepared of what really was. I mean, the letter that was sent out from the superintendent said that he had vetted her, and I understand that. So where was the plan of action of how to get our school district, get Allen back in order? Okay, nobody did anything. I was the only one who really went about this and was upset when three middle school principals allowed, 3 to 4 years ago, allowed our students to wear their gang colors. Allowed it. Nothing was done about it. And now they're still here. Now, these children are now in high school at Allen. That's where they are. Because they were allowed in middle school to do these things. So we didn't have anyone to wrangle them back in. So this woman came into our district with no clear plan, no one telling her what is going on in our school district, how bad it is, because it is. We got great students, but we got a few that are just bad. And I'm gonna say it, because I can. But, so she went and did what she felt she needed to do, because no one told her what to do and how to do it. No one gave her a plan of action.
So Mrs. Harris,
So, wait a second, hold on.
I just
So-
want to, if I may, as the moderator
Mhm,
tonight, I don't want to, this is a public meeting,
I know.
but I don't want to, Mrs. Clark is our employee.
Correct.
All right, so we have to be real careful about what we say. So I would like to stop you.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
saying that I'm not going against her. I just wish she was better prepared for when she went in there.
Thank you.
That's it.
Dr. Stanford?
I just want to say briefly that I disagree wholeheartedly that she was not prepared. She was prepared. She was prepared.
So she knew
But
about,
what we had was a group of students who thought that they could control the school that day and did not want to listen. That's what we had.
but she knew the background of everything that went on those previous years before those students got there. And by the time she got there, what was going on? Because that was disrespectful behavior and will not be tolerated.
Listen,
Go ahead.
during my interviews with her, during the process, she and I talked extensively about the history of Allen High School
Okay.
and what's been going on at Allen High School. The fact that it did not have a permanent principal for almost a year and 3 months. We talked about it extensively. She also received support from Ms. Ramos and from Dr. Roth prior to her starting.
Okay.
So to say that she was not prepared is unfair to her.
No, I'm not
So,
blaming
excuse me,
her.
if I may. If I can just close this meeting right now,
Okay, go ahead.
and if Dr. Stanford and Ms. Harris, you want to have a conversation at some other time, this is not the place
Okay, that's
to have this conversation. But again, on a positive note, I'm looking forward to a wonderful school year,
Yes.
and we are all here for all of our students. Thank you.
Amen.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Mr. Dill, Mrs. Brown, meeting adjourned. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Building Committee of the Whole for the month of September. If you choose to address the board, please fill out a comment card. Do we have any comment cards on agenda items?
Yes, we do, Mr. Miller. Jose Matos.
Jose Matos, Catasauqua, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Dr. Stanford and members of the school board. As stated earlier, as I just stated, my name is Jose Matos and I am a 22-year ASD employee in the Facility Services Department. I am also the president of the Independent Maintenance Custodial Association, representing the men and women of facility services who continue to service the needs of this district and the students and staff daily. I am here tonight to comment on Exhibit A, which was the request for approval for custodial supervision agreement with Advanced Cleaning Services. We are asking the school board to vote no to moving this agenda item forward to the regular board meeting on September 22nd, 2022. The question for you all is not whether or not we need a custodial supervisor. Excuse me. The real question for you as the board is whether or not a supervisor employed by a for-profit company will have the best interest of the students and staff at hand. Is this really in the best interest of the Allentown School District? The original agreement with Advanced Cleaning has already added an additional $798,000, $660 that was not accounted for in the general budget. Now the administration is asking for approval of a contract for an outside supervisor of this for-profit company to come in at additional potential costs of $66,816 for a year. As Dr. Stanford stated in the district's board retreat meeting earlier this month, the district will continue to be fiscally impacted by all of these decisions. If a fourth supervisor is needed, we already have three. Facility Services has three supervisory positions in Executive Director Tom Smith seated behind me, Assistant Director Kurt Kresley, Assistant Director Nick Middlecamp. And if a fourth supervisor is needed, I feel that this position would be better suited being handled by a full-time in-house employee. Again, I want to thank you for hearing me and asking the school board to vote no on moving this agenda item forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Any other comments from the? More comments? Superintendent, any remarks on these items?
Mr. Chairman, no, I do not.
Okay. Then I'll turn over to Mr. Smith for Exhibit A.
Good evening, everybody. Again, tonight, we are requesting from the Board of Directors the approval of an agreement with Advanced Cleaning Services of 3477 Corporate Parkway, Suite 100, Center Valley, PA 18034 for custodial supervision services for $32 an hour. Advanced Cleaning Services will provide one custodial supervisor to oversee custodial employees. The supervisor will develop plans and strategies to maintain the cleanliness of buildings and the facilities, supervisor performance of custodial staff, set goals and objectives, and solve issues and concerns when they arise. These services will provide safe buildings for students and staff and protect the district's assets. Action request has been reviewed by the district solicitor. I recommend this item be considered as an action item at the regular board meeting on September 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions from my colleagues?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
How much is this gonna cost us?
It's $32 an hour,
And what's the third and
working 261 days a year, could amount to about $66,000.
$66,000 just for have somebody else come and do to look at our own employees?
We don't
What-
currently have, we have approximately 99 second shift employees, and since 2010, and probably even earlier, we've never had any supervision on second shift to oversee the cleaning activities.
So we can take that money and have our own and hire our own person.
We could, certainly.
So why not? Why not? Why do we gotta have a third party? That makes no sense to me. To oversee our own employees. I'm just letting them know. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Any other questions or response, Mr.
Yes, I'd
Superintendent?
like to respond. As we've seen over the last several months, just saying that we can go out and hire somebody is just not easy said as done. There is a labor shortage all across this country. There's a serious labor shortage here in the Lehigh Valley when it comes to custodial staff and when it comes to supervisory staff for custodians. And on top of that, it takes time to conduct the search, go through the interviews. We're talking weeks to get that done. We have to get our buildings in better shape in terms of cleanliness. Having this particular opportunity will allow us to move forward right now and utilize the services to improve the work that is being done.
If I may, am I correct that this number is inclusive of all benefits costs that would be received by this individual?
That is correct.
That is
Okay,
correct.
and in the event benefits were to be implemented under our district benefits program, that would amount to something in the neighborhood of what, $12 to $15 an hour?
It varies depending on what they plan, but cruisers would be the biggest expense. It's about 34% of the salary.
So I don't know if you heard what Mr. Aristakazian stated, that Peaser's costs amounts to 17 or 18 cents on the dollar too, that if we were to hire somebody that a private sector company would not have to pay under the circumstances, and this is inclusive of benefits. So in today's labor market, I believe it is the administration's position that they would not be able to hire a custodial supervisor under the terms of our benefit structure and under the terms of Peasers, which we're statutorily obligated to do so within this budgetary amount, and we probably would not get somebody of the quality that we need under the circumstances. Is that a fair characterization, Dr.?
Yes, sir, it is.
Ms. Brown, you had a question? Your microphone's not on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So one was the position posted for us to hire? And then if so, how long has that position been posted?
It has not been posted. My understanding is that this position has been discussed and talked about and was proposed for a couple of years now. It has not been followed up on. So when he and I had the conversation in August, I believe it was, because I shared with him that, I'm really going to be focused this year on the cleanliness of our buildings, for the well-being and the support of our students and our team members. And he shared with me that this position had been, discussed for a few years now and had never been acted upon. And I said, well, let's go ahead and see what it would take to contract it out for a lot of the reasons that Mr. Sultanic has already shared with us. And in addition to the fact that we were right around the corner from the start of the school year. And if we were going to try and have any impact this school year, we had to act quickly.
I understand that. And I think it's very important that our buildings are clean. And I've been in multiple buildings and I've seen that they have not been cleaned. Not in this school year, but last school year. However, I think that we haven't made that attempt to even seek to hire someone through the district, as you just stated. So I think that should be considered before we take this step. I feel like this is a leap.
Well, again, timing is everything. If we were in April, I wouldn't have any problem with that. But this is middle of September now. So to conduct a search and go through that whole process, we're talking weeks to do that. And again, this is the board's decision. We're bringing it to the board as a recommendation to be able to move forward to benefit the students and the team members across the district.
Can I ask a question? Do we have a termination provision? I don't have the contract accessible in the contract.
There is not.
There's no termination provision?
No, it's just $32 an hour.
So we could terminate that at will.
Correct. I have the agreement with me.
Okay, so even assuming that the district wanted to proceed and create a position, we would have to follow infamous policy 301 and create the position and establish that and come up with a budget for that position. But we could, in the interim or in the intervening time period, utilize these services and accomplish the objectives requested by your superintendent. I just wanted to share that as an option because the contract is terminable at our will.
Correct.
We call in the person on an hourly basis And when we cease needing that, we can do that. So we could follow the recommendation, if that's the will of the board, to explore that option.
Thank you, Attorney Sultanic. Patrick, you had a question?
Oh, I was going to say the same things our solicitor stated. I was going to ask about the benefits, and so you said this equates to, if we hired a supervisor, it'd be about $18 an hour
No,
with benefits.
I mean, Mr. Aristakazian can say that, but generally, the public school employees retirement system, for any one of our employees, we pay close to 18 cents on the dollar on each employee who is employed in the district. Plus, we have the obligation for healthcare benefits if they work full-time as we define it. And both are costly, and then the balance would be left for what we would pay for the individual. Now, the company in question that is charging us, they have an administrative fee that we're paying on top of it, but it may be less than what we would otherwise be paying under Peasers.
Mr. Smith, I'd like to ask one question. Was there any research done on what it would cost to fill the position with a ASD staff member?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes, there was.
And what was the anticipated salary range for that?
It was about 23,000 above and beyond the 63. Yeah, I'm sorry, Harry. Yeah, we took that, we took the supervisor position that currently exists within Act 93. I think it was 64,000 under.
I honestly don't have that committed to memory.
I'm sorry.
We can find out before the end of the meeting, though.
Okay. So my concern is that there's 99 custodians that don't have a second shift supervisor, and our buildings being clean is important. I think that we need to amend this to include a timeline for approval, maybe 3 months, while the administration comes back with a recommendation to create a new position in the budget, and to fill it, or to look into that. So I'd entertain a motion or any other questions.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to, but I didn't know if we could here, but yeah, to just, that way we have some time to actually hire for the position. And I mean, we would have a supervisor in the meantime.
Ms. Conover.
I think that we're skipping over, like, we're hearing what we want to do. I heard the attorney talk about fees and talk about what the cost associated with the. Also heard Dr. Stanford, who is the employee of the district, the administrator of the district, these people are all district, right? Who said that we wouldn't have time, pretty much, if we started doing that now, to get the job done now. How long have you been here, Dr. Stanford, since November?
Yes.
And I don't know if anybody else knows this, but it seems like every time we take a step forward, somebody's trying to push the foot back. We hired him to be the administrator of the district. I don't know why we're questioning it. If it's gonna be a cost to the district, if we can't get it done, if we gotta wait, what are we doing? So we're gonna be right back here, Mr. Harris, saying, I want it done now. Now, I don't like it. You know, this is not.
Just real quick,
Point of order.
Ms. Wilt.
I would just like to make a comment on your proposal. It's an at-will position, so I don't think we have to amend anything. If we would vote to move this forward and approve it in 2 weeks, we could then direct the administration to cost out the cost of doing this in-house and come back to us, so then we can then make that decision as to whether or not we want to walk through the policy 301 process that our solicitor outlined for us. And at that time, if that's what the board wants and we move forward with that, then we just terminate this agreement. So I don't think we need to.
Fair enough. So we'll set the expectation that the administration will come back to us with what we're asking for. Okay.
I don't know if you did hear, and I don't want to hold the administration to this, but Mr. Smith did have a recollection that the option of engaging an individual might cost as much as $20,000 more than this proposal. We don't have that finalized, but just to put this in perspective, in terms of a dollars and cents issue, I did hear Mr. Smith's mutterings that may not have been projected well over the microphone, that there is, you know, that scope there, but we have not necessarily done all of the detailed costing.
So,
Okay, can you just wrap up the thought so we can, a couple other board members have comments too. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is it seems like we're hearing what we want to hear, and we're not hearing that it's a cost issue, and we don't have the time. So why don't we just take the recommendations that the administration has given us and move on to the next one? Why do we keep stopping the clock? What is the real reason behind it? And I'm wrapping it up on that.
Okay, thank you,
So,
Ms. Conover.
oh,
So
sorry.
Ms. Harris was next. She buzzed in, so I just want
Okay,
to
all right.
let her go and then we'll go to you, Ms. Brown.
Before I came here and when I was living in Maryland, believe it or not, Union Hospital, Cecil County, I was a supervisor of environmental services. I didn't wear my heels, I wore my sneakers, and I still had my nails. I was supervisor of the second shift. I understand what it is. And guess what? I was working in a whole nother department. I was trained how to do it. I know what the blue pads, no, not the purple, but the pink pads mean, for doing the floors, the black pads with the white pads mean, how to strip a floor, how to put it on there, how to make sure it doesn't hit the sidebar bars of your floor, how to wax, how to clean, how to disinfect, everything. Why can't we go ahead and promote someone from within? If I could do that and I was just somebody else and it was taught how to do this very well, why not promote someone from within to make sure that they are supervising that second shift? To me, it just, we keep saying we want to grow within, we want to grow within, we want to grow within, but we're going to bring a third party in. I know it's going to cost us some money, but it's well worth it. We need to build up morale. And for us, y'all got to understand this, for us to bring another party in to supervise 99 people, and they're like saying, who is this person? Why couldn't one of us have been promoted? Oh, so, okay, so we can do that thing for a couple months, but why not look at promoting someone from within who has earned it? We want those schools to be cleaned. Do we have, one of the things I want to talk about was the outside. I couldn't stand the outside of our schools. Couldn't stand him. I went to him, yelling. He calmed me down and said, I only have 8 people for 25. How many properties do we have?
34,
We only had 8 people for 34 properties.
and it's 5.
Now it's 5?
5.
Now it's 5.
216 acres.
So,
Ms. Harris, in an interest of time.
Yeah.
Can we set the expectation that the administration is going to provide us information to compare and contrast what an in-house staff member would cost and if that's realistic?
from within. Promote somebody.
Here enough. Okay, so Ms. Brown, did you have a comment?
Yes, so I agree with hire from within. However, the comment that I want to make is I'm seeing a pattern that we are allowing things to just sit on the sideline. And then it comes to a time point where we have to rush and make a decision.
Correct.
We have to stop doing that. We have to hold ourselves accountable. It's our job to make sure that we are following through and that we're governing. So at the end of the day, if we're not doing that, what are we here for?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Or Mr. Palmer, excuse me.
Yeah, so I was actually never done previously. Do we know how much our first shift supervisor is making? Is there, because this is second
Our
shift.
first shift are 2 assistant directors.
Okay. Yeah, and as far as I don't feel us doing this temporarily and then hiring someone or promoting from within is stopping the bus. I feel like it's plugging a gap that we have now until we can officially have someone. So I see no reason not to at least start with this. And if someone does apply, we can put that out there. So I don't feel like we are stopping Dr. Stanford. I feel like we're giving him an avenue that he can take while making sure the building's clean now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain to move this to that, the board meeting at the end of the month with the expectation that the administration is going to provide some additional information on
Okay.
in-house. So I'll entertain that motion to move that forward. Ms. Wilt, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Ortiz, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay,
Okay,
next.
all right, one opposed. All right, so this moves forward. Do you want to continue discussion? Dr. Stanford, are you clear on the expectation or what the board's looking for?
What I wrote down, compare and contrast hiring the supervisors versus contracting out.
Does that? It will have an impact on the budget. All of these decisions impact the budget.
Mhm.
I understand. But this is something that we already know about, right? So we spinning our wheels, are we wasting our time?
This is a position that's a new position to supervise 99 custodians. It's not something we've already discussed unless someone else discussed it.
So Tammy said, or how do you help me out with this? I'm telling you. My question is, Jesus will have a significant impact. As it relates to Jesus, what would that look like? You might not have the definite numbers, is that a good idea or bad?
So we already voted to move this forward and the administration's going to, but we've already voted on it. It's done. So it is. So the administration is going to bring us that information because they have a rough estimate on it. So they're going to bring that back.
Some kind of impact, right? And then I'm asking Mr. Keegan, is that a good idea or a bad idea? And then he can bring this towards the number. Now, you got a question answered, or do I need to get it in private?
Dr. Stanford?
That's not a hard question.
I know, answer.
Not that stuff, but I.
She's not, yeah, she's not asking.
Okay, thank you.
They're going to bring it to us at the board meeting.
That had for, at this board meeting, this public board meeting.
So what's your question, Ms. Conover?
To get an employee, to hire an employee, he said, Mr. Lieutenant said that it was a problem, will be a problem for this.
Okay.
It impacts our budget.
I never said that there was a problem to create it. Okay, it's usually not a problem to get me to talk. Okay, if we are going to create a position, the board has an established policy that we've lived through, policy 301. We have to go through that process. And the board has to go through the vetting of that process under the circumstances. We wouldn't be ready to do that this evening.
Right.
And I think what the building committee chair is suggesting is that the administration can give a more detailed report on the dollars and cents of this in advance of your board action in, 2 weeks? There's more than enough time to do that. There can be some information shared under the circumstances. But right now, the recommendation is to move forward with the proposed contract as presented.
All right, so we're going to move on to exhibit number 2. Mr. Smith?
Yes, good evening again. Tonight, I'm going to request board approval of agreements between the city of Allentown and the Allentown School District. And this is again to grant requested fee simple deed and temporary construction easements for lands of the Allentown School District, specifically 265 Lehigh Street, which is Building 21. Just for historical reference, I came before this board on June 13th, 2019. For those of you who were board of directors at the time, you may remember that the city came to us looking for that fee simple deed and temporary construction easements to make those traffic improvements at Route 145, which is Lehigh Street and Union Street. So I'll go through this and it'll give you a little bit more detail. I just wanted to remind you that I was here before on the same item. So again, they want to make necessary pedestrian and traffic signal safety improvements located at the intersection of Union Street, Lehigh Street, and 6th Street as part of the highway occupancy permit, which they must obtain through PennDOT. They require a larger area than we previously requested. Apparently that was unbeknownst to the city at that time. I believe Lehigh Street is actually a state road. So that's probably what's initiating PennDOT. So they require that larger area to extend the sidewalk and the construction easement area. Therefore, the city needs another fee simple deed from the school district to the city, so the city can then transfer the required portion from the city to the state for the right of way. The improvements will include traffic and pedestrian signals and crosswalks. The cost of the improvements will be funded through a $1 million grant awarded to the city of Allentown. The action request approval is subject to acceptable review by the solicitor, the district solicitor rather, and I recommend this item be considered as an action item at the regular board meeting, September 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions from my colleagues? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to move this forward.
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Harris, do I have a second? Ms. Wilt, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this moves forward. Mr. Smith, item number 3.
Yes, again, good evening. Tonight I have a guest with me, Miss Alyssa Wigginfield from McClure Company. She's going to give you an in-depth presentation on our phase 2 guaranteed energy savings program. So I'll first go through the board memo, and then I'll permit Ms. Wigginfield to run you through that presentation. So tonight we are requesting from the board of directors the approval of phase 2 of the guaranteed energy savings agreement. And this is an amendment to the original agreement that we entered into last year. This agreement will be with McClure Company, 4101 North 6th Street, Harrisburg, PA 17110. This is to address mechanical upgrades and energy improvements, which are necessary to ensure a safe, efficient, and healthy school environment for over 20,000 students and staff. This project complies and meets all State Act 163 of 2016 and federal ESSER procurement guidelines. Phase 2 is scheduled for the summer of 2023 implementation and includes the following, which we'll go through in great detail. It will be district-wide HVAC preventive maintenance, Dot Elementary School, Newcomer Academy Lincoln, Newcomer Academy Midway Manor, Ritter Elementary, Union Terrace Elementary, and these are for HVAC upgrades and Moser window installation and their upgrades. These renovation projects will respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and will address the many dimensions of resource equity and longstanding gaps in educational opportunities. In addition, the Allentown School District strives to improve the learning environments by reducing the risks of virus transmissions and focusing on the health and well-being of our students and staff. Phase 2 cost is $20,814,798 and will be funded by ESSER 3 funds. This action request is subject to acceptable review by the district solicitor, and I recommend this item be considered as an action item at the regular board meeting, September 22nd, 2022. Now I'll permit Ms. Wigginfield to continue with her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to the administration and the board for allowing me to speak this evening. My name's Alyssa Wigginfield. I'm an engineer with McClure Company. I've been with them for 15 years. My presentation's informal, so if you have questions throughout, feel free to flag me down. We'll also leave some time at the end. The packet in front of you is a lot more detailed than what you'll see for the public. We remove floor plans for safety purposes. So if you'd like to turn to slide 2. Would you mind, please? Thank you. Excellent. Quick background about McClure. We were founded in 1953. Our role is to help school districts across the state do construction projects. We've worked with over 88 school districts, including Allentown, and we appreciate our partnerships. We work with these school districts, what's called Guaranteed Energy Savings Agreements, or GISA or ESCO, and this is legislation that allows school districts to leverage wasted utility dollars to fund energy and capital improvements. Through this process, we have partnered with McClure Company in 2021. And in that, we are your partner, and it is our role to provide pre-construction, construction, and post-construction services. Our construction projects include a return on investment, meaning our project costs are guaranteed. Any errors or omissions are responsibility of McClure, meaning there are no change orders. We also guarantee the energy or the performance of these projects, that you will see energy savings. Any shortfall is responsibility of McClure Company. If you'd like to advance to slide 3, please. And our first step of this was to create a capital plan. So we worked with the district administration using 3 tools. One was the facilities team's deficiency list. Second was Breslin's architect's feasibility study. And we did our own analysis to come up with a 10-year plan. Using this capital plan, if you want to turn to slide 4, we created a vision of how these ESSER funds would be funded to update facilities, but also make them energy efficiency. Our goal was resource equity and improving the learning environment and health and well-being for students and staff. If you turn to slide 5, with this program was into 3 major phases over 3 years. Phase 1 was completed over the summer. We're still working behind the scenes. The majority of the project was HVAC upgrades at Jackson, Moser, and Washington. And we also did some energy upgrades like LED lighting and insulation upgrades. The photos on the right-hand side of the screen show a great before and after shot of photos taken in June and then again in August to show the impact of the new LED lighting, as well as a new HVAC system on the exterior wall, which will provide cooling and dehumidifications for classrooms. I was able to meet with a teacher in August, and she was so happy with our new system. So congrats to the board on a great project. So if you want to turn to slide 6, we'll talk about phase 2. Phase 2 is a continuation. It's phase 2 out of 3 total phases. Phase 2 will focus in on HVAC modernization at 5 more buildings, Dodd, both newcomers, Ritter and Union Terrace, as well as a window upgrade and preventive maintenance. We started this process back in the spring. We met with the administration in July to give an update and the final report last month. If you turn to slide 7, the report focused in on the many details of what this program will provide for students and staff of Allentown School District. The first is to continue a district-wide preventive maintenance plan. The current plan will expire in June of 2023, so this will extend it another 12 months. What this plan will do will address all buildings and address all HVAC systems to make sure they are optimal, running efficiently, and are serving the students and staff. So ensuring that these systems are maintained, operated, and taken care of so that they can last a long time. The second project we discussed was a window upgrade at Moser. Those windows are original to the 1946 and 1969 sections respectively. So we're recommending new energy efficient windows with operable windows in classrooms, at least 2 per classroom. So improving efficiency. If you would like to turn to slide 8, we'll get into the HVAC upgrades. The goal here is to take antiquated steam heating systems and modernize the HVAC system. So in classrooms, they will get new tall vertical unit ventilators and new rooftop units to serve large group spaces. All new units will not only cool the spaces, but have active dehumidification capabilities. So no longer are we just listening to what the temperature is in the classroom, but we're also addressing humidity levels during cooling season as well, keeping it to 50 to 60% relative humidity. We're improving filtration to MERV 13 filters and also doing air cleaning. We're providing new automated temperature controls that can be scheduled and optimized remotely, as well as providing new heating systems within the heating plants. The key on the right will show you the floor plans and what the system types will be for each of those spaces being addressed. So this system type for Dot Elementary will be the same for the remaining 4 buildings, as well as the 3 that we've installed already, which helps standardize HVAC systems across the district. So slide 9 will show you the floor plan for Newcomer Academy Midway or Big Kid Newcomer. Slide 10 will show the floor plan for Newcomer Academy Lincoln or Baby Newcomer. Slide 11 will show Ritter Elementary, and slide 12 will show Union Terrace Elementary. So that's the scope of work. Do we have any questions at this point before we get into financials? All right, if you'd like to go to slide 13, this is the project financials slide. So this table, I will move left to right, addressing the columns. So ECM is short for energy conservation measure. You'll see all 3 phases and each project individually broken out. Moving left to right, the next column is funding of how the project will be funded, along with the project costs for phase 1 and phase 2 items, and a project cost for next summer, phase 3. And then the 3 subtotals for the summer 2022 projects, 2023 projects, and summer 2024 projects. So I'd like you to focus on is the red rectangle. This is what we're recommending for approval for next summer. It talks about all of the projects we just discussed. That project cost is 20.6 million. A payment and performance bond is added. That's the insurance for the project for a total cost of 20,814,798. The guaranteed energy savings over 20 years for this project will be 1,505,851. Do you have any questions on the financials? If you'd like to then turn to slide 14, in terms of next steps, we're asking that this project be approved at the next board meeting on September 22nd. This will allow us to amend our energy savings contract with the district to include this phase 2 scope of work, and it'll allow us to purchase major equipment for the HVAC project. I can't stress this timeline enough. It's very difficult to get equipment for next summer. We'd like to get you in the front of the manufacturer's queues for next summer so that we're able to mobilize in May behind the scenes, start the construction as soon as students leave, and have it wrapped up before they arrive for fall semester. At this point, I will open the floor to any questions. My contact information is on the last slide, or reach out to Tom if you have any questions. Thank you again for having me this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues? I have one just for Mr. Smith. So on slide 13, we've got a list of our different schools that lack air conditioning. Is this an exhaustive list of our school buildings that don't have air conditioning?
I believe the only one that's not listed here would be Harrison Morton.
Harrison Morton, and we're planning to replace that building.
That's within the 10-year plan for
Correct.
replacement, correct.
All right. So just so we're clear, the board is continuing to make this investment to improve our learning environment by bringing air conditioning. We're obviously doing as fast as we can and what we can handle as an administration. So thank you, Mr. Smith, for your commitment to making that happen and the administration as a whole. So thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to move this forward.
I do have a comment.
Ms. Harris, go ahead.
I wanted to thank McClure for what they do. They not only do these things for, our air conditioning and everything else, they also give back to us. During COVID at Building 21, they built a little house so that addressing the homeless could give out food because they were doing it in the middle of winter and it was cold out there. And they built that little shed with heat, just so they can have it there. So I really thank them for that. And also for the last 2 or 3 years, they've given to nonprofits for uniforms. So they just don't provide, they also give back to our community. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this forward. Ms. Matheson, and second by Mr. Will. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none. This moves forward. That's it for agenda items. Any comments on non-agenda items? Nope. All right. Any old business? New business? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of the whole meeting here on September 8th. And is there any public comments on agenda items? There are none. Dr. Stanford, do you have any comments
Mr. Chairman, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have on the agenda this evening approved district bus driver list, Exhibit B, which is a contract renewal for Maxim Healthcare. Exhibit C, which is a contract renewal for GHR Education. We have a contract renewal or a contract with Therapy Source Staffing Solutions, as well as a contract renewal for ESS and a contract agreement with IAG. And hopefully my colleagues had a chance to look through these. Is there any specific item that you have questions on that you would like Mr. Ristakezian and the administration to address this evening on these?
I would like to discuss number one.
Okay.
Because
Any other particular items? I just want to kind of pull them out right now, if that's okay. Okay, seeing none. So are my colleagues okay with voting on B, C, D, E, and F together this evening?
I'll make the motion to vote on this.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Can I have a
I'll second.
second? Ms. Harris, any comments, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so they move on to the board meeting at the end of the month. So Exhibit A, let's pull that one out. That is the approved district bus driver list. And we will have, I know, Mrs. Harris, you have some questions regarding that. And Mr. Ristakezian, if you'd like to address any questions, or anyone in the staff, whoever, Dr. Stanford, your team would like to address these questions. So go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Okay, this is first student, correct?
Correct. This is now what we are voting on is legally
Okay.
required
Yes.
by us to vote on these drivers who first student has submitted to the school district to be approved. So this is a perfunctory item. So there's a list of names down here. I don't know how many they are offhand, but we have to do this every time. And then when they add them, we have to actually do that as well. It happens throughout the year.
Okay.
Who was that?
I just have a question. And these are bus drivers that only transport Allentown kids?
Great question. I don't know the answer to that question. Mr.
That's a
Rizakezian.
yes. Yeah, this is a statutory requirement. So we essentially vet out all of the bus drivers against PDE requirements. And by statute, we bring the drivers forward to you to say, hey, we've confirmed that these drivers meet the minimum requirements set forth by the state. And again, the statute requires you as a board to approve eligibility requirements, but the only way you could approve them is if we tell you that we vetted these drivers as of August 31st. These are the ones that meet the criteria set forth by the state. And now we just have to do the compliance piece, which is ask you to vote on the list.
So all we voting on is the list, not the fact that they're awful, but the list.
Not about the quality of the drivers, just the fact that they meet the requirements.
Okay,
This is a continuous list. So what we discovered last year as part of our audit is that this is a task that we were not compliant with.
okay.
We put together the memo and the statutory requirements, and since that time, we brought this forward to you. Our plan is to continue to bring it forward in the September and January meetings so that you have a full accurate list of those drivers that met the requirements. And it's documented that you guys had the opportunity to approve them.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding this? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve this bus drivers.
So moved.
Mr. Miller, second. Mrs. Wilt, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay. Nay.
Okay, so that would be 7-2. But this does move on to the board meeting at the end of the month. Are there any agenda items on, any public comments on non-agenda items? Thank you. Any new business? Is there any? Well, actually, let me do this because I went out of order. Is there any old business? Seeing none, any new business? Oh, old business? Oh, okay. Let's do the old business first because I apologize. I should have called that one out first.
Okay, we're going back to first student. How they've been treating us for the last, they get $9.8 million this year. But yet they're not delivering our students to their classes, to their schools on time. They're rude to our parents. And anyone who calls, they hang up on us. They don't respect us whatsoever. I didn't like the way they got the contract in the first place. And how in the world are we we gave them $10 million and we just keep giving them money, all together, what, 50 million? Pretty much for 5 years? And we've got crap from them? What can we, okay, we got how many, how long is this contract for the next, is it up this year? 2 more years? 2 more years? What do we need to do to go ahead and put it out?
So let me,
Next year.
let me do this. And,
ahead.
and I do, just hang on one second there, Ms. Ortiz, if you wouldn't mind. Dr. Stanford, I know in the contract, there are terms of accountability and performance measurements in that contract. Is that something that you and your staff could bring back to this body under Finance Committee of the Whole next month to do a presentation regarding that? So everybody could be on the same page, and also any input you can provide on updating this body.
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Thank you.
Is that good as a next step? Okay, perfect. Ms. Ortiz?
I just want to echo on what Ms. Harris said. They're terrible. They're terrible. And yesterday morning, her bus was in an accident. It took me over an hour to get a hold of them to tell me that it wasn't a serious. They hung up on me twice. Half the time the phone lines are busy. I couldn't understand the one lady because she's talking to me with a mouthful of food. That's just unacceptable. For 2 days in a row, both ways, to and from school, my child was on a bus for 2 hours with no bathroom, no nothing, just sitting on a bus, driving around, and I had no clue where she was. Nobody could tell me. So I really need to, I mean, if there's any kind of a way we can get out of this contract with them, or have a conversation with them, or a sit down with them, so they understand the expectations and the importance of communicating with schools and with parents, because their lack of communication is absolutely horrendous.
Thank you. So.
Yes,
Brown?
so
Ms.
I,
Brown? Thank
I
you.
agree with that. And as a parent, I had my fair share of bad experiences. One being the first student allowed my son to get off of a bus at the age of 6. He was let off on Union Street. He ended up on 17th Street, up the street from Union Terrace. He ended up on 17th Street in Hamilton, and a stranger found my son. During that time, I've made several complaints and no one has done anything. To this day, we still have parents that are complaining that their child is not getting off the bus, or they being dropped off to the wrong bus stop, and there's no accountability with this company. I don't have any faith in them, so I'm ready to move on to new business.
Thank you. Any other old business and new business?
So new business, I would like to request if we can put a new RFP out for any transportation companies and see if we have a chance of getting someone new, because this is ridiculous. Well, that's my question.
So that's a request you have. You're not making a motion of any.
No, I don't know if
Okay.
I can do that. because we're-
That would be a little bit awkward. Yeah, that'd be a little awkward, I think, in terms of the procedure, but certainly making that request. And I think can be addressed as well during that next month's meeting and presentation.
Okay.
Because obviously anything that's going to be done it
What
can't
is
happen
the
overnight.
term
It's
of
gonna
our
take some
existing
time.
contract?
It's 5 years.
It's 5 years. How many years forward?
2 more.
2.
2 more. So an RFP would only be practical if we can establish
An out
us
clause,
for
right?
terminating the existing contract.
Plenty of calls.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
based
clause.
upon the performances, yes.
Okay.
And that's what I was just gonna
So-
say. I was
so
gonna
that's-
say, like, if they're not meeting their end of the bargain and they're not meeting their end of the contract, we can terminate it, correct?
And so I understood previously, there's been lots of issues, not just this year. This is the beginning of the school year. It's risen to this in the first 2 weeks, which rightly so. This board is concerned, and Dr. Stanford and his team have an opportunity to address contractually and what can occur in the future. So I think that's really important. We can't here today really solve the contract and, you know, resolve the issues that are going on right now. But that contract does have teeth in it. That was a prerequisite in the last contract. It definitely was. You know, we can debate whether or not the teeth are sufficient or not. But we have to give an opportunity, not just for Dr. Stanford himself, but the team and even a legal review to make sure that, you know, whatever procedure we may take moving forward to hold them accountable and or get out of the contract is followed, and we're not, you know, putting anything at risk at that point.
And I would also make a recommendation, even if we believe that there is cause to terminate under the circumstances, we need to have an assurance that we can find another provider
That's the
that can
practical side.
provide support to transport the students of the district, because there aren't a lot of, unfortunately, providers that are out there. You're dealing with one of the biggest in the country.
Someone else had,
In the wings.
someone else
Right.
had,
We got people waiting in the wings.
someone else had buzzed in. I don't know who that was.
It was me.
Okay.
Mr. Thiel, I get what you're saying about that it being the whole first week of school and things like that. And I know there's some hiccups and I get that. But that's not an excuse for the lack of communication. There was no reason that I had to wait about an hour just to find out that my child was safe and that bus was not in a serious accident and she wasn't laying in a hospital somewhere. There's no excuse for that. I get it. There's hiccups the first week of school. I get it. Drivers are learning the route. I get all of that, but there's no excuse for the lack of communication.
Understood. And Ken, I understand. Thank you. Mr. Palmer.
Have we been doing the performance reviews for the last 3 years? What have they been reaching their metrics?
So I think it's an opportunity. I think we have to give the administration an opportunity to present the data, which was what you're asking for, right? I mean, that's, you know, the data they have been collecting data. We have had that in the past in the beginning of the contract. I can't speak to it off memory. I know I have witnessed the data being presented to us. And again, in all due respect to my colleagues, we're not going to solve the problem tonight. I understand and I respect the frustration. I get it. Trust me. And it's been an ongoing frustration for this district. No parent should have to wait. There should be communication. No child should be, you know, just haphazardly let go somewhere. All those things are unacceptable. There's no question about that. I don't think anybody in this room would argue that one iota. From a point of governance in this body, we have a certain process we must go through as a board. And let's give the administration an opportunity to address this in a professional manner, bring it back to this governing body so that we can then make decisions with the administration that's in the best interest of our students and our staff and our community. Sound good?
Good.
Okay. Any other new business or grass catcher items?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
gonna
Ms.
go
Phoebe
back-
Harris.
go back to that one. We do, Mr. Sultana, we do have people who are willing and ready to come and step forward to be our bus drivers. We offer a lot of money. A lot of people that want to take that money. It's not just a few. Trust me. We put that RFQ out there, it will be answered. And then we'll get to choose.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
You're welcome.
Any other, Mr. Miller, any other first student comment you'd like to make?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Mr. Miller,
Motion to adjourn.
Mrs. Conover, whoever you want to put down, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
This is good. If we get all of these people. Yeah, we gotta do this for everything, so you just gotta let me know.
Yeah.
Only next week, because I'm gonna be doing some other things, so please.
I'm gonna grab Jeff.
I know.